After the break, the life-saving kits being handed out to cabbies. Plus, can Arsenal face off Man City to keep their title hopes alive? Tonight, back to safety. The first Londoners airlifted out of Sudan. The first plane touched down at Stansted this afternoon, carrying hundreds of British nationals, much to the relief of families back home.
Where I live to the place they took us, it was a nightmare.
What was the worst part?
All of the journey.
Also ahead, killed by a single punch on a night out in Soho, where there are calls for tougher sentencing. Confusion over Coronation Concert tickets, how some party hopefuls have been left disappointed, and it's crunch time for Arsenal. A loss to Man City tonight could end their chances for title glory. Good evening. There were emotional scenes at Stansted Airport today as the first evacuation plane from Sudan touched down to safety. On board, 250, mostly British nationals, among them Londoners desperate to leave the war-torn country and desperate to be reunited with their families. Their return has been a race against time, while a fragile 72-hour ceasefire remains in place in Sudan. And while there are many more people yet to fly home, our correspondent Simon Harris spoke to those finally back after days of worry.
From the war-torn streets of Khartoum to a chilly Stansted Airport, the first flight of British evacuees from Sudan landed this afternoon. In the coach park of the Essex Airport, there were emotional reunions. Fida from Acton was in Sudan visiting her daughter Sharma, who works for Save the Children.
And the way from where I live to the place they took us, it was a nightmare.
What was the worst part?
All of the journey from Manshia to the Wadi Saidna. It was frightening.
How do you feel to be home?
Relieved. It's very surreal, but relief is the first thing. And we're out of danger. There's no bombings. We're not ducking and diving. We're home.
How do you feel to be back in London?
Oh, it's grateful. I'm very happy.
But for Mohammed from Westbourne Park, the wait would be a little longer. His daughters, aged 6 and 4, weren't on the first bus.
I had to call every time just to find out what's happening, and there is no any information to give us updated what's happening. When I was here since 12 o'clock, waiting for the plane, and every time I keep delaying it. But I'm glad they're here. I'm glad they're here. This is the most important thing for me now.
Your daughters are 6 and 4 years old.
Yeah.
What's it been like being a dad at home knowing they were in a war zone?
It's difficult, to be honest.
It wasn't long before the next group of evacuees were driven from the terminal to the coach park. Ahmed from Kingston was waiting for his dad Sharif. After days of anxiety and worry, relief at last that he was safe and well.
Thanks to the British government for the support and for providing the evacuation. It went very smooth, and we are happy to be here.
Yeah, it's been tense, very tense. But yeah, happy to see him back. Yeah, it's been a week and a half of tension and anxiety. But yeah, really happy to see him back.
And finally for Mohammed, the moment he'd been waiting for. Reunited with his daughters who'd been staying with their grandparents.
My second daughter, Lamar.
How do you feel?
Very happy to be here.
Their loved ones are home and safe, but for others, the wait goes on. Simon Harris, ITV News, Stansted Airport.
Well, Mary and the team will have, of course, much more on this story on the ITV Evening News at 6:30. Next from us, the Metropolitan Police is the only force in England and Wales to miss its recruitment target, falling short by 1,000 officers. Well, Met Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley tried to explain why at a Commons Home Affairs Select Committee earlier. Daniel Henry is at New Scotland Yard for us this evening. Daniel, what more can you tell us?
Well, Lucrezia, the reputation of the Metropolitan Police has been in question for quite some time, and in recent years it's been hit with scandal after scandal, leading to the Casey Review, describing the Metropolitan Police as institutionally racist, homophobic and sexist. With a rap sheet like that, hardly surprising that they've struggled to attract the number of staff they were hoping for. But it's not for want of trying. Take a look at this advert designed to make joining the Met look like a big budget cop drama.
That looks quite concerning.
Well, unfortunately, adverts like that haven't seemed to have done the trick, as we found out today that the Metropolitan Police is still short of around 1,000 officers.
I've recruited over the last 3 years more than 9,000 officers, which is the most, I think, ever in such a short period. We haven't hit the target. Obviously, we are striving to maintain the quality. That's really important. I think there are factors which include both. I think the reputation of the organisation at the moment doesn't help recruiting, but also the employment market and the pay situation is really challenging.
So who's to blame for all of that? Well, the MP Chris Philps says it's Sadiq Khan, London's mayor.
On numbers, every single police force met its uplift target, with just one exception, the Metropolitan Police. It's certainly a question I'm going to be asking Sadiq Khan as the politician responsible. The funding was there to do that. I will certainly be asking Sadiq Khan why he failed.
So where does that leave Londoners? Well, stuck in the middle of a blame game, lots of finger pointing there, and stuck with a force that's failed them multiple times, and stuck with a force that is still struggling to attract enough people to do the job.
All right, Daniel, at News Scotland Yard, thank you. Next tonight, the family of a man who died after he was punched repeatedly on a night out in Soho wants tougher sentencing for such crimes. Paul Mason was hit to the ground at random by Steve Allen, who was sentenced to 3 years and 9 months in prison. But Paul's family say, considering the huge pain they've suffered, that sentence wasn't enough. They spoke to Sam Holder.
It was an attack completely out of the blue. 52-year-old Paul Mason on his phone is approached by a stranger. The footage that follows is too violent and upsetting to show in full. He's punched repeatedly until he's knocked to the floor. An attack that caused fatal brain injuries. Paul's family have struggled to make sense of his senseless killing.
Paul was a remarkably kind, decent, generous, loving human. Seeing your loved one being battered on the street for no reason is just horrific.
The man responsible for his death was drunk during the attack outside the Ivy. He believed Paul had stolen his friend's phone. Stephen Allen was sentenced to 3 years 9 months for manslaughter, but he's likely to spend far less behind bars after deductions. Rachel has started a petition demanding changes to manslaughter sentencing in response.
How can somebody who has committed such a violent attack on an innocent person, how can they be in prison for just over a year? It just doesn't make sense. It's an insult to us. It's an insult to society. It's just not justice.
So not only do you want the sentence increased in Paul's case, you actually want the government to overhaul the sentencing guidelines for manslaughter in general.
I think it's vital. I think for us to have some kind of closure and for society to have faith in the justice system.
5,000 have already signed the petition. Meanwhile, the Attorney General's office say they have received an official request to review the sentence in a case that questions how many years a life is worth. Sam Holder, ITV News.
The London Marathon has expressed sincere condolences after a runner died as he travelled home from the race on Sunday. 45-year-old Steve Shanks was described as a very experienced runner who'd competed many marathons. A fundraising page for the MS Society has been set up in his memory and has already raised thousands of pounds. Now to a royal confusion over the Coronation Concert at Windsor Castle. Thousands of people were delighted to receive an email congratulating them on getting tickets to attend the star-studded event on May the 7th, but many ended up missing out instead. Faye Barker reports.
Kevin Martin wanted to take his wife to the Coronation Concert to celebrate their 46th anniversary. As he headed to an oncology appointment yesterday, he was delighted to receive an email suggesting he had a pair of tickets. But when he later went back to claim them, they'd gone.
I've got cancer, which is terminal, which is by the by. But I thought, what a great thing to be able to go and do before anything else happens. And then, 3 hours later, it was like I almost felt like I'd been robbed. To be told, I think it's like being told you've won the lottery and then saying you haven't.
Others have also shared online their frustrations after receiving the email from Ticketmaster. It does mention tickets are being offered on a first-come, first-served basis, but also that people have until April the 27th to claim them. However, like Kevin, many missed out. The Windsor Castle concert is one of the highlights of the Coronation weekend. Headline acts include Take That, along with Katy Perry and Lionel Richie. 5,000 pairs of tickets were in the public ballot. Released in batches, the last tickets were made available yesterday. In a statement, Ticketmaster said, everyone who was successful in the 2 main ballot rounds was offered a guaranteed pair of tickets. Any unclaimed tickets were released on a first-come, first-served basis to those who had previously applied to the ballot. These inevitably went very quickly. The concert is being televised, but this is little comfort for those who thought, for a moment, they'd be there in person. Faye Barker, ITV News.
Still to come on the programme, Arsenal's big chance. We speak to fans ahead of tonight's big match. Plus, could this be Boy's best friend? But first, black cab drivers are often first on the scene at serious incidents, including stabbings. That's why TfL has approved a scheme to give hundreds of drivers military-grade bandages, which can be applied to wounds in those first crucial few minutes. Joining us now is Alex Chivers from the charity Rapaid, which is behind the scheme. Alex, thank you so much for coming to talk to me. We've got a kit. We're going to talk about it specifically in a moment. But a little bit about you. You are former Special Forces.
Yes.
You used to be firearms police officer.
Yes,
now.
yeah.
But now it's black cab drivers that are given this, starting with this scheme. Why? Why have you picked black cab drivers?
Basically, the idea of when it comes to a serious bleed, time literally does save lives.
Yeah.
And the quicker that people can be treated and have direct pressure applied, the better their chances of survival. And if you think about it, the black cabs are in and out of our community 24 hours, day and night. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
And it just made perfect sense that these bandages are carried on the cabs so that we've all got immediate access to them should we need them.
And we can see that these some of the kits are being handed out. This was actually today. And I think around 400 cabbies will have these kits in their cars now on the roads in London.
In the next couple of days, the logistics, but we'll have 400 cabs carrying them. And the aim with our corporate sponsors and donors, we're looking at doing thousands of cabs.
Really?
That's the ultimate game.
Just tell us how exactly it will work, because we can see it's not all cabs, but it's going to be some. So how will it work? How will people know that these are the cabs that will have this specific kit on them? OK, so what they need to look out for is there'll be a green sticker in the front and the back window that says Rapaid Emergency Bandages. So people will know if something awful's happened and they see a taxi with that sticker, they can flag the cab down. We need your bandages. We need your bandages. And the cab driver's carrying a pack with 4 bandages in, so that you can have immediate access. Well, this is the pack.
Yes.
This is why we have it here exactly in front of us. Just tell me a little bit about what you can find inside.
Yes, in the pack, we've kept it nice and simple. There's 4 emergency pressure bar bandages, 4 sets of surgical gloves. There's a solid colour instruction card and some window stickers so that the cabs that are carrying them can put the sticker in the window. Yeah.
And we saw, of course, that you handing them out today. TfL has approved this initiative as well.
Yeah.
What has been the reaction from cabbies, though?
Oh, it's been fantastic. They really do get it. We ran this initiative in Manchester, Oxford, Swindon and Exeter, and the cab drivers really do get it. And it's not just about stabbing and terrorism. It's also about the nighttime community, people falling on bottles, glass. You know, they know time really does matter.
And in addition to this specialised kit, are they getting any kind of a training, specialised training as well about how to use these bandages?
Well, no, that's the beauty of it. We've kept it really simple.
Yeah.
These are the same bandages that I carried in the military and also as a police firearms officer.
Yeah.
And they were designed to be quick and simple with no training. And just for those first 5 or 6 vital minutes, helps on its way. With all the other good gear, but these are just for those 5 or 6 minutes. So.
And it makes all the difference, doesn't it? Well, listen, hopefully never needed, but very, very, very good to have. Alex, thank you so much for coming in to talk to us about this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, there's a lot riding on Arsenal's face-off with Man City tonight. A run of 3 draws has seen the Gunners lose ground in the title race, but a win tonight could put them firmly back in the driving seat as they search for their first title in almost 2 decades. But before we get ahead of ourselves, Rags Martel spoke to fans on their way up to the game at the Etihad Stadium.
They've been gunning for glory, but are the wheels coming off Arsenal's title challenge? Tonight's match against champions Man City could provide the answer.
As stupid as it sounds, this is like a World Cup final. Everyone as a football fan has their eyes on this match. It's a must-win game and a must-not-lose game, so a draw is the bare minimum. Whenever it comes to Arsenal, people love to throw around the word bottle in or blown it. We can't just focus on Arsenal not getting one result and saying they've blown it. We've had an incredible season.
There's been 2 sides to the Gunners' season. The first rising to the top and looking a little bit invincible. The second, more recently, they've been drawing and dropping points. Arsenal's lead at the top is now just 5 points, and second place City have those all-important 2 games in hand. Kerry Phillips is travelling up to the game. Have you blown it?
Nah. I look at it now, was it 5 games to go and we're ahead of Manchester City? Like, you would never, you'd bite your hand off for that. So I don't think we've blown it. We go there, and they've still got to win. They've still got to win games, so I don't think we've blown it at all.
You're looking quite serious.
I'm nervous. I'm actually nervous. I'm trying to keep it calm and composed on camera.
Even the manager knows this is a must-win game for Arsenal's title hopes.
And we knew from the beginning, you want to win a Premier League, you have to go to Spurs and you have to beat them. You have to go to Chelsea and you have to beat them. You have to go away from them and you have to beat them. And this is what we've been doing. That's why we are here. And now we have to go to City and you have to beat them. You want to be champion, you have to win those matches. It's as simple as that.
It's really important, not decisive, because there's still many tough games for both sides. We have more games to play, but we cannot deny how important it is.
It's been almost 20 years since Arsenal last won the league. Tonight's result will be crucial in deciding whether that trophy comes back to North London. Rags Martel, ITV News.
A reminder of our top story tonight, and there have been emotional scenes at Stansted Airport as the first evacuation plane from Sudan touched down to safety. On board 250, mostly British nationals, among them Londoners, of course, desperate to leave the war-torn country and desperate to be reunited with their families. Their return has been a race against time with a fragile 72-hour ceasefire in place in Sudan. Well, now, a new book's been written about the experiences of a zookeeper, but its author also has an extra special connection to London Zoo. Sally has been there to find out all about it. Sally, please tell me more.
So, when I found out about this book called Jacko, I had to read it, and honestly, I devoured it. I know you're an animal lover, you would love it, Lucrezia. It's about this little boy brought up in the 50s in Teddington, and he and his friend find a baby jackdaw. Oh. And so they bring it home, and it's about how the jackdaw develops. And it's I don't want to spoil anything, but it's just gorgeous. It is not a normal wild bird. You'll absolutely love it. And I met him at London Zoo because it really shaped his life. He ended up there, not the bird, but Mick. Let's take a look.
He'd perch on my shoulder. He'd come to you when he saw you. He showed a great affection for people. One of the things I didn't like, he used to have a habit, he'd sit on your shoulder, he'd put his beak down your ear, and that was very unnerving, so I wasn't very keen on that bit of it.
But everything else about him was perfect, because Jacko the jackdaw was more than a bird. He was a friend and a little London legend whose story began back in 1957.
One day we were walking through Bushy Park, coming home, and we suddenly saw this bird on the floor. And we thought, well, that, unusual. And it was obvious as we got closer he was injured. He had a damaged wing, and it was obvious he was a baby.
So Mick took him back to his home, the Railway Hotel in Teddington.
My dad sort of straight away said, oh, we'll look after him. My mum was, oh, not another animal.
They nursed him back to health. But when they tried to set him free, the most extraordinary thing happened.
He just wouldn't leave us. This was the point. He said, no, I like it here. I'm staying.
Jacko also loved trains and became a local celebrity, but he also had a fondness for the pub.
They used to play cribbage a lot in the pub, in the public bar. He would nick the cards. He'd land on the table and then just grab a card, and someone would have a good hand and go, oh, that's the end of my hand.
That's brilliant. What a monkey.
What a bird, yeah.
It's perhaps inevitable that Mick would end up working with animals. He applied to London Zoo and eventually became head keeper of the primates, including Lucy. But it was in retirement that the story of Jacko resurfaced when his neighbour, the award-winning children's author Jean Willis, fell in love with the tale.
As an author, you've got to think up your own plot. And, we're all a bit lazy. And suddenly I was handed this gorgeous story on a plate.
Perfect.
So, I'm extremely grateful to Mick.
How much affinity have you got for that little bird?
Oh, I just love him.
The book, named after Jacko, tells the wonderful adventures of this little fella and how lucky London and Mick were to know him.
He was a wonderful, wonderful animal. Everyone who met him loved him.
Oh, Sal, this little bird thought he was human. I know, and he preferred walking to flying. Isn't that brilliant? But the other lovely thing about Mick was he told me this great story about when he looked after the primates at London Zoo. Occasionally, if they were looking after them, he'd have to feed them by hand at home, so he'd have to take them home on the bus. Isn't that amazing? Imagine a gorilla on the bus. Anyway, here's the weather.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles. Car, charger and energy.
Hello again. Well, if you've been enjoying the tulips, here's one that's absolutely glorious because it's got a fox in it. Socks the Fox, apparently is called. Got a bit of a ring, hasn't it? Now, tomorrow the weather's not great. It's all right in the morning, but turning wetter through the day. And then as we head into Friday, should generally be drier and warmer as well. Over the weekend, there'll be some showers at times. It's looking like there'll be more on Sunday at the moment. Still a bit of uncertainty, so keep an eye on the forecast, but staying mild. And I just want to show you this graphic here. So you may have heard that Spain, for example, and parts of Iberia have got some very warm temperatures, getting up into the high 30s, whereas here we have had this northerly flow that's just been keeping things chilly, in fact temperatures below average. But over the next few days, as we start to bring in that southwesterly air, that's what's helping things warm up a little bit, could get up into the high teens. So let's take a look at the detail for you. Over the next few hours, we have got a fair bit of cloud outside tonight. There might be some gaps in it. Temperatures dropping down, probably not quite as far as last night. Most areas staying above freezing, so once again should avoid a frost in the majority of places. Tomorrow, again, another fairly cloudy start. There might be a few gaps to let a touch of sunshine through, but generally getting cloudier through the day. As we go into the afternoon, we've got rain moving in. There's a bit of a question mark as to what time it will arrive and how far east it will go initially. The wind's also picking up, so getting a bit gustier into the afternoon, but temperatures, despite all those conditions, should be a touch warmer. Still only highs of 12 to 14 though. And then into the evening, that rain continues to move through. There may well be some thunder on it and some heavy bursts and a murky end to the night, but it's looking a bit drier and brighter into Friday. And look at those temperatures coming up nicely. I'll see you later. Cheerio.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles.
Well, that's your weather, and that's it from us. Mary is back at 6:30 with the ITV Evening News. But from me and the rest of the London team, bye-bye. Have a great evening.